Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzalez, joined once again by Glenn Beck, Stubergear, and special guest Aaron Colen from TheBlaze.com. You are. You're still special to us. All right, Glenn, what's the top story for you?
The thing they should have been chanting was, "Get the answer, get the answer," not "send her back," and I'll explain.
All right, Stu.
On a constant effort to be and hold the most unpopular positions in America. And be the most unpopular person in America. So today we'll take on 9/11 victims.
Oh, man. Okay, Aaron.
I've done that monologue before. It doesn't
work out well. No, it's a little bit more. There's an interesting point to make about this with yet another news cycle with Jon Stewart telling us how terrible we are for not giving funding to the 9/11 victims. It needs to be clarified, so we'll do that today.
Aaron.
And I want to talk about last night's Send Her Back controversy and maybe take a step back from the mainstream media sort of hysteria and maybe add some perspective to it that hopefully will be helpful.
All right, obviously a lot to get into here. First, we want to thank our sponsor, realestateagentsitrust.com. Stu, I know that you and I often talk about Glenn's company here, and we point out how it's much more effective probably than picking the guy with his picture on the bus stop bench where you sit your rear end.
Yeah, it's funny because you do, there's like Angie's List, right? For you go on there and you get reviews for like plumbers and you get and that's smart to do.
Honestly, how do you do it? I've always done it just like, I don't know, the person who sold me the house in the first place. I got to sell.
Right.
That's how you do it.
Or you just go on Google.
Yeah, or you call the name that's in front of the house you're trying to buy. There's a lot of ways to do it.
Right.
But the idea is this is your largest financial transaction you probably make in your entire life.
No pressure.
No pressure or anything. There. Maybe a little bit of sorting would be a good idea.
Yeah. Well, but the problem is I'm not going to sort. I'm just not going to sort. I'm too lazy to do it. That's what realestateagentsitrust.com does. We sort them for you. We get the right person in your area to help you buy or sell a house.
So they've got real estate agents all across the country. They have one where you are or where you are moving to. You can go to realestateagentsitrust.com right now, find an agent near you, and they can help you. All right, Glenn, your top story.
All right, so there is a new story out today by David Steinberg, and we're going to go over it probably next week because it's very complex. It's going to require a chalkboard and maybe puppets, I'm not sure. But it's very, very difficult to follow, and it's about Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar, apparently, that's not her real name. Her real name, apparently, Omar, was taken when she left, where was it, Somalia? She was I think she was in a camp, a refugee camp with her family. This is very, very common in these refugee camps where somebody comes in, they've got a pass. It's the reunite the family kind of thing, and so they'll either pay in some cases, or they're friends. And I think in this case they were friends. And the Omar family said, "We can take 3 of you. We'll take the sister, the brother, and Ilhan, and they'll become our family." So we don't want to go into that because if you're in a refugee camp, I'm not going to say I'm not doing that with my family.
Right.
So let's not discuss that. What's important is why did she marry her brother? And this is
that's a good question.
It's a good question. An important question.
You're confident that she actually did marry her brother?
I'm not 100% confident, but I am. I have been in touch with David Steinberg for 6 months. We've been talking back and forth, and the more I talk to him, the more. He's been the guy who said to me in the past, privately, Glenn, I know you're going to tell you about this because I don't have the certificate yet. It's going to be coming from Great Britain. And I said, what certificate? Trying to get it out of him. He said, just never mind. Until I have it, I don't even want to talk about it. And one of them is a marriage certificate. I have some of them here. One of them is a marriage certificate here. There's this certificate that actually is for her sister.
Okay.
And it claims that her sister's dad is Nur Saeed. Okay. He's also now a Omar. But the Omars are not the parents He is the parent. We don't know where the mother is, but he is the father. So why did she, when she came over in 2009, she was here and she was going to go to college. And in 2009, she's already married, has 2 children with another husband. She doesn't get a divorce because they were only married through religious ceremony. But then she decides to not marry religiously, just marry for the law in 2009, a guy who appears to be her brother. Why? They both, after they're married, they both go to the University of...
It's North Dakota State.
North Dakota State. So they both go to college. One possible reason is because they get a tremendous break as a married couple going to college together. Also, one could help the other one get in. But during the college years, they're married, but they're still living with the spiritual husband and the children. So her ex and her new husband are living in the same house while the husband and wife are going to college.
Sounds like a solid sitcom.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy.
I don't think I would want to.
Then he mysteriously leaves. As soon as college is over, he's gone. And while she goes over, and again, we have things from the internet that you can't independently verify because, it's the internet, but it's
social media posts by these people.
Yeah, pretty solid that these are pictures of her with her brother, with her sister, saying, this is my sister, this is my dad, this is my brother, on all of their social media pages. The problem with this is she testifies later that she needs a divorce from this guy, her brother. She needs a divorce, and she just said, I haven't seen him in years. I don't know where he went, so I just need the divorce papers filed. So they give her the divorce. Here's the problem. That required her to swear an oath that she didn't know who he was or where he was. These pictures now show she knows exactly where he is, and she knew at the time of swearing in, for this divorce. It also has her perpetrating a fraud on the state by marrying possibly her brother. If it's not her brother, it's still somebody that she's very close to, and perpetrating the fraud on the university if that's what they were doing to get lower costs. So perpetrating that fraud. Also, she filed income tax with her spiritually married husband at the time she was married legally to another husband, while they were all living in that same house. So there's income tax fraud, there's possible fraud on acceptance into the country, and there is also possible fraud with the marriage. This is, I believe, that I don't know if a journalist can take this further than this. I think now you need a grand jury. But I do believe there's enough information here to at least bring to a grand jury and say, you have possibly the biggest fraud case in the American Congress ever.
Yeah.
And it should be investigated. And she should want it to be cleared up.
Still?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great point in that she doesn't even, look, this is, David's he's done good work on this. I mean, he's spent a lot of time diving into this. It's some of it is really hard to
follow. I mean, it's really
it's very hard
to follow, and also hard to verify. But the Minneapolis Star.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. The Minneapolis Star Tribune has asked her questions about this. They've looked at this material. They have said these are pretty serious questions, and there's something to this unless you have an alternate explanation. She either just says, "Oh, it's just crazy right-wing lies," or doesn't respond at all. Now, it's one thing to not respond to David, which look, they should be able to do. You should be able to go to a right-wing reporter too and answer their questions. That shouldn't be that crazy, but it's Ilhan Omar. Okay, kind of understand it. Minneapolis Star Tribune is going to be someone who's on their side, and honestly, the last article they wrote, the last update, confirmed much of what David had reported,
and didn't deny anything that he reported.
Yep.
It said.
We couldn't independently
verify. So, I mean, it's pretty solid. Now, the question is, will anyone in law enforcement have the balls to look this up? Does the IRS, think of this, this isn't a political case, this is actual violation. Look how Obama used the IRS to go after Tea Party members. Does anybody in the IRS actually want to or have the balls to look into a sitting congressman?
Yeah. Aaron.
The timeline on this, the local media that you just talked about, they've put some pretty clear timelines in terms of her marriage, her tax filings, and things like that. And like you said, she's just brushing it off with, oh, that's right-wing conspiracy theory stuff. At a certain point, she's going to have to do better than that. The heat's going to turn up on it as it gets more and more attention. She's going to have to answer for it. And as you said, if you didn't do this, if you didn't do any fraud, why wouldn't you want to just lay out why all of this is untrue? It would be relatively easy to do so if you didn't do any of this stuff. But the fact that she's refusing to go into the details of why none of these accusations are true is concerning and is why it's worth looking into more.
I do want to add, it is frustrating. It's not just her that's saying, oh, these are just far right-wing conspiracy theories. I mean, you've got other media outlets who are not paying attention to it because they say it's a far right conspiracy theory.
Because no one wants to. It's why Drudge had to finally put the blue dress on the Drudge Report himself, because no one would pick it up because they don't want to get involved. I mean, you'll pay a heavy, heavy price going against her, a heavy price. And the Minneapolis Star-Tribune actually said that they didn't give him, he's a real reporter that's done real reporting on this, and said PJ Media is a far right-wing website. So when they said we can't independently verify, and these charges also came from a far right-wing website, they just dismissed them, get discredited, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, though I will say, I thought they did. First of all, the only people who are actually looking into it, and I'm sure it's frustrating to David because he's done all this work and they're kind of dismissing him. On the other side of that, though, is it's a mainstream media site that's saying a lot of what he's saying is true. We asked about it. She won't respond to us, which is very weird. And the stuff that they couldn't confirm, they didn't say, okay, this is provably false. Like, they couldn't come up with any reason to disprove it. They just couldn't independently confirm it. So I think they actually have gone a long way to add credibility to this, even though they haven't done the exact job I would like.
I think there's just a lot of hesitancy there is still some, you look at those pictures and all the evidence, there still is some sort of cloudiness to it, and I think they're probably a little bit hesitant to fully put themselves out there on that until they can connect all the dots, but it might be hard to do that.
And I think Ilhan Omar's best defense, honestly, here is just how freaking convoluted the story is. Because even if it is 100% true, it is hard to follow.
And the birther excuse.
Yeah.
I remember we talked about it because at the beginning, the whole staff was split on it. Is he really a citizen? Is he not a citizen?
I don't know if I would say split. You think split? I mean, there were
there were people
especially the conservative media. It was a nice. There were definitely people in the conservative media who thought that was a way to attack Obama.
But I think there were people at the very beginning
who looked at it seriously.
And said, let's just dismiss this. Yeah. Let's look at this seriously. I remember arguing with you saying, why can't we even look into it? It's so easy to, and we just, you just didn't want to get involved in it because you had a feeling that it wasn't true, a really strong feeling wasn't true. But if you tried to prove that it wasn't true, you would be called
You'd look like
a birther.
Yeah. Right. Okay? Like anyone who tries to disprove the conspiracy theory is accused of being guilty of believing the conspiracy theory.
So it was just poison to even mention it. That will work to her favor in this, too.
She's using it. That's what she's doing.
Yeah. It's very easy. All Barack Obama had to do was just produce it. Well, okay, so he did. Now, it's crazy because anybody who says, oh, look, they did that, that's just, okay, crazy town. She should just easily dismiss this. She'll use the birther strategy on it. I'm convinced of it.
That was one of the points we made on the birther thing at the time. It's like, it's a really, first of all, he was born in freaking Hawaii.
Yes.
But that's number one. But number two.
No, he had CIA agents playing those newspapers back then. They knew he would be president.
But number two, the reason why Barack Obama talked about birtherism a lot is because it helped Barack Obama. And now they're going to talk about it again because it's an easy way of just like, you can categorize all of these criticisms into this birther category and do not have to deal with them. It's very convenient. I don't know what the truth is on this story, to be honest about it. It's very convoluted and hard to understand. But what we do know, and this is just from the Tribune, you can just take it from the Tribune, is that there is very strange activity and likely a real problem here at some level.
A real problem of a felony on her taxes. That's solid, rock solid, I think.
Stu, if you don't mind, when we come back, I'd like to pick it back up with Ilhan Omar, but about the comments that were chanted against her last night when we come back.
You don't have to ask my permission.
I don't.
No, you can just completely ignore me.
All right, before we get back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, Roman Health. Stu?
So guys are absolutely terrible at taking care of their health.
God, they really are. You guys never go to the doctor.
No, I know. I have friends that will not go to the doctor for any reason. Yeah. It's like, that's not a, you're getting old and you look really out of shape. You really need to go when you have an issue. But it's very common.
Why were you looking at him when you said that?
I didn't mean to. I think, though, part of it is, you just don't want to get bad news. But I think part of it is also just like, you don't want to have those awkward conversations. You don't want to, if there's something going on that you don't really want to have an awkward conversation about, like you losing your hair, for example, like you just don't want to do that with your doctor, especially if it's your doctor you've gone to for a long time, that your wife goes to, that your kids go to. Like, it's just awkward. That's why Roman's awesome. Like, you go to Roman and you go through an online process. You actually talk to a real doctor who is, it's not face to face. So if there's any awkwardness, you don't have to deal with it. Then they send it right to your house, and it's super low prices. So you don't have to get any of the. You can be lazy too and still get the stuff from Roman. It's pretty great. Whatever you're dealing with, get it taken care of. Go to getroman.com/y. Getroman.com/WHY. Get a free online visit, free 2-day shipping. It's getroman.com/y for a free visit to get started. Getroman.com/y.
All right, Aaron, so back to Ilhan Omar,
Yes.
but on the opposite end of the spectrum here.
So, as most people probably know by now, last night at the Trump campaign rally, the crowd, while he was criticizing Ilhan Omar, started chanting, "Send her back."
And we have that actually. Let's go ahead and play that.
Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds.
Doesn't look thrilled.
And she talked about the evil Israel, and it's all about the Benjamins. Not a good thing to say.
It's tough. It's a tough spot for him there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so you see that there, and when something like this happens, the mainstream media goes into extreme rhetoric mode, and it sometimes can get so over the top that I think we miss the more nuanced and important sort of consequences that can come from a thing like this that goes beyond saying, oh, Trump is racist, Republicans are racist, things like that. The tweets and the send her back and all that stuff, I think the problem is that can be extremely damaging to the perception of the Republican Party, especially among people who aren't the kind of people who necessarily would be at a rally, but people who are just conservative people who are sympathetic to conservative values, conservative policies, who don't want to necessarily be associated with such a controversial thing, whether you think it's racist or not.
I think you even go further than that. It's not just conservatives. It's people who might have never voted for conservative, but are seeing what's happening in their own party with such hatred. And then they look at that and they'd be like, I got hatred on both sides. What are you going to do? Who am I going to vote for now?
And I think another aspect of that is that it also puts people that, like me, a black Republican voter or another minority Republican voter, it puts us in awkward situations with people in our circles of influence when we are called to sort of answer for or explain situations like this to people who are already sort of skeptical about the Republican Party's reputation on racial issues in particular. And it puts us in a position where we have to feel like we have to defend that instead of talking about substantive issues about the values of conservative policies or the damaging or the danger of the things the Democratic Party is trying to do as we go forward. It's frustrating because I think we don't need that. We don't need this kind of controversy, this kind of rhetoric in order to have low black unemployment or to have criminal justice reform or all the things that we can cite to say that President Trump has been good for minority groups. We don't need this. And I wish that President Trump with that platform that he has, as the most powerful man in the world, would take a little more care about how the things that he says could be received by people who, again, are not his core base at a rally, but people who he could win over, who the Republican Party, who conservatives could win over, if we just got rid of that kind of stuff and just focused on the values of the conservative movement of the Republican Party.
All he had to do was just put his hand up. I mean, it's a really hard thing. I've been in speeches before. Usually people will like chant USA, USA. It drives me nuts. I don't like it. I don't like the chanting kind of stuff myself personally.
Is it because it's like a herd mentality type thing for you?
Yeah, and it just bothers me personally. It's whatever. But you're standing there and you know that the people who are saying that are your supporters and they're good and they don't mean it, you know, in any disruptive way. And most of those people, I would guess, are saying this almost tongue in cheek because they like to poke the other side, because we've been poked for so long. So they like to poke. And the president's standing there, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you say, hey, hey, hey? I personally think the president should say, hey, she's got some things that we have to talk about. We don't need to kick her out of the country. But that would have been really hard for him to do.
And really quickly, earlier this afternoon, he did come out and say that he disavowed it. Let's watch that.
Yes, and Mr. President, if I may, when your supporters last night were chanting, send her back, why didn't you stop them? Why didn't you ask them to stop saying that?
Well, number one, I think I did. I started speaking very quickly. It really was a loud, I disagree with it, by the way, but it was quite a chant, and I felt a little bit badly about it, but I will say this, I did, and I started speaking very quickly, but it started up rather fast, as you probably noticed.
So you'll tell your supporters never to say that again?
I would say that. I was not happy with it. I disagree with it. But again, I didn't say that. They did. But I disagree with it.
But they were echoing what you said in your first tweet, that they should go back.
Well, I don't think if you examine it, I don't think you'll find that. But I disagree with it. Anybody else?
Still?
I mean, look, I think he's doing the right thing there. You know, it's
a big thing for him.
Yeah, he doesn't do that often. And look, he obviously did start it with the tweet. I mean, like they are echoing his sentiment there.
But he didn't say send her back. He said you can go home.
Yeah, he said.
I mean, I feel like that's a little bit different.
I mean,
really.
He said you go back if you don't like it.
Well,
basically.
right, but
and they're
one
saying,
thing
well,
he's saying is voluntary and one is involuntary.
Yeah, I guess you got a little bit of room there. I mean, it's not
I think it's clear to say
a
that
wide highway, but I'll give you there's a little path.
They got it from that. Whether that's what he said, they definitely got it from.
Yes,
right. That's where it started.
They took it and ran with it.
Right.
Yeah, and like, you know, look, I think he's right to say that, and I think I will be interested to see, number one, if that works. The problem here, I think, is you know, in addition to all the other problems we've already discussed on this one, and I agree with your analysis for sure, is if they continue to chant against his wishes, he probably can take them on and say, like, you know, okay, guys, like, that's not helpful. You know, that's not helpful. But at some level, if it continues to happen, he's going to have to stop talking about her. And she's a very valuable thing to his campaign. Ilhan Omar,
he'll take them on before he'll drop her. She's a very effective tool.
If she can be the face, if her and Ocasio-Cortez, not the actual face, not the actual skin color, but their policy set and their anti-Semitism and these things can be the way the Democrats are defined, he's going to be president for another 4 years. So you don't want to lose this one. I think hopefully, you know, his audience is going to listen to his advice, because I think he's got the right instinct on that.
We got to take a break real quick. We'll be back.
That's how you let the white person talk. Actually hurt.
So we're over here talking about how cold it is in the studio.
It's freaking cold.
It's wonderful. It's perfect. I'm a little warm myself.
Oh my! You're wearing
a sweater.
15 layers. Just wear a normal amount of layers.
I'm wearing a shirt, a tie, and a light sweater.
It's true. You are a normal layer amount.
Yes.
At least as compared to your average.
You're a woman.
Whoa.
Oh my God, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Well, you might identify as one.
I do
today.
identify as one. Thank you.
We've got overtime still to come. blazeTV.com and 9/11.
Oh God, the Jon
Hard-hitting
Stewart
story.
thing.